Thank you everyone for being here, for coming out on a beautiful Friday evening. I'm thrilled to welcome you all to the 2022 Steamboat Mountain School Global Studies presentations. This is a culminating moment for many of our students. They really started this journey back in December, their first Global Studies meetings. They've been meeting week after week, preparing for this trip, learning about the places they're going, learning what to pack, what not to pack, learning about the culture, the people that they might meet, all imagining this potential. And now, here we are, 6 months later, a few thousand miles, countless stories, and a lot of laughter. We're able to gather in this beautiful space to reflect and to recount and to celebrate our Global Studies students. For me, as the new director of this program, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Lackey. I'm the director of the Global Studies program. And it's a very, very special moment. This has been what we've all been working towards and thinking about, and for some, myself included, losing quite a bit of sleep about for this whole year. And to be here now and to see all of our students and the work that they put in, even just the last few weeks preparing for this presentation, to take time to really think back on the trip, to think about the moments that stuck with them, the people that made a lasting impact on their experience. And then also to gather back together again after the trip, back at school. Now that they have their phones back, they're back in class, they have their distractions, but to take that time each week to come back together and to remember the connection they made with each other on that trip that is really special and honestly is really hard to replicate. I'm really grateful and proud of these students and the work they put in. I also want to take a moment and thank our fearless trip leaders, our faculty members that left their friends, their families, to go to, in some cases, other continents, the other side of the world with your kids, with our students, to live with them for a month, to prepare them. We entrusted them with everything for that time period, and they did it with grace, and they did an exceptional job. So if we just take a moment to give them a quick round of applause. And before we dive in, I also want to give a very, very special thank you to Margie, whose work, her leadership, and mostly her vision of what this program could be and was and will be is what has brought it to where it is today. And I personally could not be more grateful to Margie and her mentorship, and I know the students feel the same way. So I also want to take a minute and give a round of applause for Margie. So now, I will turn it over to the people we came here to see and to hear, our students and our leaders, and get to hear their stories and experiences firsthand.
Good evening. What is human nature? Is the emphasis here on human or nature? Is it supposed to be read human adjective, nature noun, human hyphen nature, human capital H, nature capital N, or is the H actually silent? And why does the human part come first? Was nature built for humans, or were humans built for nature? While in Ecuador, during our final reflection, some of our students described human nature as consciousness, polarity, collaboration, instinct, inherent, origin, dependency, human period, nature period. And eventually we synthesized the idea that our human nature really falls into three categories: relationship to earth, relationship to other people, and relationship to oneself. So first, relationship to earth. In Ecuador, there's been rolling green hills, massive snowy volcanoes, clouds clashing in the afternoon, rich black soil giving life to corn and potatoes and other food, singing birds and crawling bugs and frolicking monkeys, calm water reflecting starlight and sunset. Here's Ben Heffel to tell you more.
Hello everyone. Today we'll be sharing about the Sunny Lodge part of our GS experience. This part of the trip began with a 3-hour boat ride downstream. When we got off that boat ride, we had a 15-minute canoe ride to the lodge. The scenery was very beautiful. After relaxing for a bit, we went on a hike and saw some interesting, scary, and cool insects. We learned about how you can survive very easily in the jungle if you know what things are. For example, we learned about some ants that tasted like lemon. We also learned about this tree that when you cut it, you can get fresh, clean drinking water out of it. When we returned, I was amazed by the brilliant, perfectly clouded sunset glistening through the trees. During another part of the Sunny Lodge experience, we went out to look at different bugs. We saw a tarantula in part of one of the main buildings, and later went on a night hike. We saw some tree spiders, a scorpion spider, a banana tree spider, some ants, and more. The next morning, we went to a big tower. It was built for bird watching. We saw some toucans when we were up there. Way up there, may I say. When we left the tower, we went hiking, which may I say was not the best idea. Let's just say we had some unwanted little passengers on us, but luckily most of us only had a few stings. After that part of the trip, I realized how nice it is right here in Steamboat Springs. Even though it was nice there, I am not really one for the bugs, the heat, the humidity, etc. As I look back on that part of the trip, I will now be sure to take a bit more time to appreciate the environment of Steamboat. Of course, I would not be reflecting on the beauty of Steamboat without the beauty of another place. And I would not be reflecting on this right now if I did not have the opportunity to go on the trip. Thank you.
Next, relationship to people. This was exemplified by laughter on bus rides, high fives on hikes, informal limbo competitions, and good conversation over meals. It was gracias and buenos dias, aplauso Fernando, appreciation for Reina and Jorge. But most importantly, this manifested in a deepening of love and appreciation for each other. And that's really something special. The kids will tell you more.
Hi, I'm Owen Wither, and I'm a freshman at Steamboat Mountain School. This past trip to Ecuador has made me realize how fortunate I am to live in a town like Steamboat. In Ecuador, most of the time we didn't have access to clean drinking water, and it opened my eyes to how fortunate we are to have clean tap water. Another thing I noticed in Ecuador was our sense of community. For 6 days, we stayed in a small town called Yanguilla. Yanguilla is a community that is based and makes their living off ecotourism. This includes small self-sustaining businesses and a larger community service program in which we participated in during our time there. In Yanguilla, everyone shared. In a town of 200 people, they managed to have an impressive amount of infrastructure. They had a soccer field, a volleyball court, a community center, a store, and multiple businesses, and a school, not to mention well-maintained roads and the fact that every house had running water and electricity. They were able to have all this because everyone in the community is working together and pooling resources as well. This is almost the polar opposite of Steamboat. In Steamboat, people can be having luxury items while others are struggling to live and won't know where their next meal is coming from. Indian Ecuadorian culture involves greeting everyone, whether you know them or not. I enjoyed this part of their culture the most because it made me feel welcome and encouraged me to dive deeper into their culture. This is also a polar opposite to Steamboat, where you can merely nod to tourists or give them a dirty look, depending on how you feel. This helped me learn more about the people that are accepting us into their homes. In conclusion, a learned a lot about how Ecuador functions and how it differs from America. If I could choose any piece of culture to bring back, it would be greeting everyone. I'd also bring back the idea that if we all pool our resources, we can do incredible things. It was illuminating to see life from their point of view, and I hope we can take a part of their culture back to us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sunny Lynn, and not that long ago, I was in the breathtaking country of Ecuador. And the meetings leading up to the trip in Ecuador, it was easy to grasp that I was going to a foreign country, but I wasn't prepared for reality. I was horrified. In Ecuador, even though I was so far from the people, climate, culture, and landscape I knew, it didn't feel that way. Going into the trip, I had many doubts about the place I was going to and the people I was going with. Everything was different, and it was difficult not to withdraw from everything new and strange. Instead of letting my discomfort control my experience in Ecuador, I took a breath. With that came a part of all that surrounded me. During a section of our trip in the community of India, I stayed in a homestay in Cheyenne. Our time in the homestay taught me the power of living and existing around strangers. There I truly became a part of the family. Our time in the homestay was incredible. The night before and on the bus ride to India, I was nervous to leave my group and embark on a part of the trip without the people who I'd learned to heavily rely on. Knowing that at least one familiar person would go with me brought me some sense of relief, but I was still uncertain about the view ahead of me. When we were first introduced to our homestay mom, Tiana, and her baby Zoe, I had my first rush of relief. Immediately, Tiana held the shine and me feel welcomed. After a couple of minutes of setting us in, Tiana went downstairs to prepare for dinner and gave us time to relax a bit. Once the initial shock had subsided, we made our way to the kitchen and asked if we could help make dinner. As Schneider and I worked on preparing dinner, we were able to get to know our family and tell them about ourselves. Our family consisted of young girl Andrea, her brother, Julian, their mother, Stephanie, a woman named Magdalena, a woman named Sofia, Diana, Zoe, and two men, Julio and Fabio. For 6 nights and 7 days, we got to know everybody as we played games, cooked, washed dishes, and had many incredible conversations. At one point during the week in India, I woke up in the morning sick and was unable to get up for work in the community. My family was persistent in helping me get better, with herbal teas and delicious soups, although I slept for most of the day. When I finally did wake up, my homestay siblings came in every room to keep me company. We drew all sorts of pictures, and I showed them how to use my camera, which resulted in about 100 excess photos, my favorites from the trip. Yangia was a place filled with connection, kindness, and a sense of community unlike any other. One of the most incredible feelings is the feeling of belonging, especially in a place so foreign from everything you know. Knowing the power of feeling welcome, I want to not only help people feel more welcome to come into my home, but to further deepen connections with people in my life. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Charlie Carlene. I'm a freshman at Steamboat Mountain School, and I am here today in front of all of you to talk about stereotypes. It's so easy to allow stereotypes and preconceived notions to influence one's point of view about a culture. Expanding the mind and understanding the influence that stereotypes can have on a person can help one not only to be more emotionally in tune with the culture, but if visiting said culture, one can truly immerse themselves in it and gain a much better understanding of the facets and inner workings of the culture. I think an idea that I had going into the trip was that the entirety of Ecuador is poor and a third world. This just simply isn't true. While yes, much of Ecuador consists of farmland and indigenous communities, the bigger towns and cities are quite modern and, in their own Ecuadorian way, look a lot like a town or city in America. For example, Quito, the capital of Ecuador, has a sprawling city architecture as for stereotypes they had about me, I asked my homestay family what they thought about Americans. My homestay family said that we were all wealthy, obnoxious individuals that make our business everyone else's. They also said they usually try to stay away from American tourists when they can because of this reason. Well, they aren't entirely wrong. It still shows that generalizing a culture can affect your thought process when thinking about it. My homestay family helped to break many of these stereotypes I had by showing me that even though their income appeared to be average or below average for Ecuador, they were still happy, find ways to pass the time, and spend time with the people they love. I think Nate and I helped to break some of their stereotypes as we were respectful, offered to help with dishes, and played with card games almost every night. I think that in the future, when they see more people from America, we can be more approachable. The same goes for us in Florida. Moving forward, being more cautious about how stereotypes might be affecting my thought process will give me a better understanding of a culture and help me fully immerse myself in it. Thank you.
As many of you may know, South American countries tend to be much better at soccer than us in the United States. This is easily showcased by the fact that we, a group of teenagers, almost lost to a group of 7 and 8-year-olds wearing rain boots. During our trip, soccer appeared in 3 different places, the first of which was the Satchela community. Here, we played soccer in the midst of the jungle. The goals were made of bamboo found nearby, and by the end of games, we were sweating profusely because of the humidity in the rainforest climate. Soccer played a very important role in the community. The group had only 6 or 7 buildings in the main area, but they did have a soccer field, better tended to than many of those in the United States. The Satchela community built and maintained all their buildings, cut the grass with machetes, kept the ground level, and ensured the field drained properly, and this would be a lot of work for anybody. The second place we played soccer was in the Yungia community, alongside the homestay families. We played on 2 fields, one in the town center and one at the elementary school. The soccer pitch in the town center was a communal effort being funded and built by the village. However, this wasn't any normal field. During the wet season, it rains almost every day, so people at Yungia built a roof on top of the pitch to keep the ground from getting too wet to play properly. The third and final place where soccer played a role in the indigenous Sami community in the Amazon. Here, we could not play soccer because of one of the most brutal rainstorms I've ever seen in my life. However, the people who lived in the Sami community explained that nearby tribes would get together to play a soccer tournament every year. They explained that long ago, they used to wage wars on one another, but now they just play soccer games against each other. In Ecuador, soccer played such a huge role in so many people's lives, uniting the tribes from the Yasuni area of the Amazon, showcasing our communal effort in Yungia, and being a symbol of hard work in the Satchela community. It is incredible to see how important soccer was to these communities, and inspired me to want to play soccer more. It helped these people connect, and it helped me connect with them.
You learn something new every day. Now I know this line holds true, I just didn't know how much. Funny enough, global studies taught me things that I didn't know were possible. Before the trip, I imagined full classes taught by our leaders to keep up with every subject that we were missing. And eventually I realized that was not the case. Little did I know we would be learning so much more. One of the lessons I was taught repeatedly was how to connect with people, and how valuable a genuine connection can be. At some points on the trip, we were only staying in one place for 1 or 2 nights, so making friends with people outside of our group was somewhat difficult. This slide shows a picture of our group playing blind dodgeball with a school group that we met. It was lots of fun. But they didn't speak English, and we only sort of spoke Spanish, so that made it very difficult. And being able to communicate without only using words was something we needed to figure out and quickly. At one point, Grace and I were trying to explain our strategy by demonstrating the game, and that just basically resulted in a bunch of laughs. And even though the situation was somewhat vulnerable, being able to laugh with these people created a great memory and a bond was able to form. This feeling was created in less than an hour, so leading into our 6-day homestay, I guess the connections have the ability to be strong. On our first night, Sunny and I helped our homestay mom make dinner while we talked about our lives and heard stories about hers. By putting ourselves in a vulnerable position, we were able to create an affiliation with our homestay mom on the very first day. As the week went by, we started to understand more about our family's lives and feel like we were actually a part of it. We played Uno, ran around with our homestay kids, ate meals, and even shared jokes. Although my favorite part was when our homestay mom, Deanna, shared her delicious bread recipe. By simply learning how to make bread, we walked away with a new skill and a deeper bond. Leaving the community was sad because it felt like I was leaving a family of my own. But it reminded me how much of a connection we got to create. Now, thinking back on these memories, I'm reminded to be with people when I get the chance, and to make connections with people, even if I'm never going to see them again. GS also showed me the value in deepening relations that I already have. This lesson was not something I think I could have learned in the classroom, but something I could only learn through the vulnerability of these experiences. Thank you.
Finally, relationship to self. I am the world, and the world is me. As we left our phones behind and began to live less on our screens and social platforms, we began to see ourselves in the world and the world in ourselves. And a strange paradox emerged. While we began to realize that we are not who we thought we were, that we are not just our profile pictures and high school transcripts, we also began to strengthen our understanding of how we truly appear and who we want to be moving forward. Here is Graceland, a story.
During the Ecuador trip, there are many things that were out of my comfort zone, like leaving the country without my family, running through the rainforest and chased by wasps. One of the most different and uncomfortable yet rewarding experiences was the homestay in India. Mihaela and I were paired together for the homestay. This was a recipe for struggle because Mihaela is in Chinese class and I am just not very good at Spanish. The first day we went to the family's house with the daughters Mia and Carla, and we sat in awkward silence for about 20 minutes. But thankfully they asked if we would like to go see the garden and the cow, which was really nice because it gave us all something to do together and helped us get to know each other. As the days went on, we slowly started to become more comfortable with the family. Like at dinner, we'd laugh with them and try our best to have conversations and communicate. We still found some things to be very awkward, like not knowing how to work the shower and thinking we broke it because water was spraying everywhere. And we just did not want to ask, so we just did not take a shower for 2 days. And one of the last days, we got the courage to ask if we could wash our laundry. And thank goodness for Mihaela to be brave enough to ask. I was definitely not. We went down the stairs kind of scared, and Mihaela says, "Levantar la ropa con sopa," which translates to lift clothes with soup. This was definitely not what we meant to say. They looked at us like we were crazy. So me and Mihaela tried again and still did not succeed. But then the dad says in English, "wash clothing," and Mihaela and I look at each other like we are so stupid. We burst out laughing. It was great. No matter what, I am proud of us. Mostly Mihaela for trying our best and not giving up on speaking Spanish. As I look back on this trip and these experiences, I realize that discomfort can be an amazing thing that brings joy and teaches new life lessons that you cannot get from sitting at home in Steamer Springs, Colorado. I also get to look back on these great experiences and think about how amazing this trip was.
Hi everybody, my name is August and I've been in Ecuador this last month. This trip has changed my perspective on everyday life by giving me multiple new realizations. The most important one to me is being more aware of the things around me and not just how I feel. I would always worry about whether I was too cold or too hot, if it was too windy, and not, wow, it is gorgeous here. I should take all this in because I might not see it again. Realizing that not paying attention to just myself and how I feel changed my life and just how I perceive it. My presentation is a poem that I wrote called By the Lagoon. I wrote it towards the end of the trip when we were in the northwest part of the Amazon jungle. We were staying in a place called Sami Lot and it was a long trip to get there. It took a 4-hour-long boat ride up the Napa River with a 15-minute-long canoe ride through the entrance into the lagoon where this lodge rested. One of the days we were there, I wasn't feeling so well, so I decided to stay back from the day's activities. This day was pouring rain nonstop from the morning into the early afternoon. I was sitting in a hammock on the edge of the dock that looked over the lagoon, and I had a moment of inspiration. Droplets hit the lagoon, the dock glistening, the trees sway side to side. They say hello. I say hello. I sway side to side in the beautifully sewn hammock that is filled with all colors. I look around and feel at peace with myself, and I feel at peace with the life around me. Birds chirp and glide weightlessly across the water. Fish swim, some with purpose, some attempting to find it. We are fish, in a sense. The water endlessly moving is almost hypnotizing. Circles upon circles, droplets hitting the water reflecting what I perceive, but not quite the same. I sway. I breathe the thick, moist air that is life. The wind blows my hair into my eyes. What is my purpose? What is my work to this world going to be? The wind is warm, the water cold. I must find a place in between and my future will unfold. Thank you.
My name is Alexander. During this trip, I learned how to enjoy being uncomfortable. Occasionally, I caught myself stuck in discomfort, not appreciating what was around me. I found myself standing on the top of a crater, sore leg, the wind pounding against me. The wind was so loud that I couldn't hear what Kevin was saying. But when I looked around, I realized that I was surrounded by vegetation of beautiful turquoise water. While building a palm house in the Satchel community, we stood on scaffolding, made solely out of bamboo. 8 people at once standing on a piece of bamboo. All of us relying on the locals' knowledge and expertise. Trusting them, I was able to enjoy the moment and recognize that I was doing a once-in-a-lifetime activity, building a structure out of bamboo, wood, palm tree leaves, and nails. While traversing the Amazon jungle, I saw many different types of animals. In a square foot, you could see leafcutter ants, bull ants, a slug, and a spider sitting on its web. If you didn't know, the bull ant is the most painful insect sting in the world, and the pain has been compared to being shot. Walking right next to them kept you on your toes, and you made sure you didn't touch any branch before looking at first. Although it was a little scary, it was a really cool moment to see all these animals that I had never seen in my life. Before this trip, anytime I was in any discomfort, I would have a just get it done attitude. This trip helped me realize that being uncomfortable is helpful.
Hola. En Ecuador, las personas hablan en español y ahora hablo en español solo. Esto es porque Kevin está aquí.
Hello. In Ecuador, the people speak only in Spanish, and now Nate only talks in Spanish. This is why I am here.
Pienso que hablo en español solo porque algunas cosas que comía era rara comida.
Nate thinks he only talks in Spanish because of something strange he ate.
Cuando fui un día, estoy con una familia y la familia hablan solo en español.
When Nate went to Yanguilla, he lived with a family, and the family only talked in Spanish.
Luego tiempo viajares ataque nosotros con vacas.
Nate, I'm not saying that.
Oh, lo siento. Pienso tú no darse cuenta esto.
Oh, sorry. He thought I wouldn't notice that and then translate it anyway.
En un guía con la familia es difícil porque necesita hablar en español.
In Yanguilla with the family, it was difficult for Nate because he needed to talk only in Spanish.
Con la Satchula es diferente porque Kevin, Reina, George o Alex hablan en español y una opción es traducir por mí.
In the Satchula community, it was different because Kevin, Reina, Jorge, or Alex also speak Spanish, and one option was them translating for him.
Porque una opción es otra persona traducir para mí, hablo en español menos en la Satchula comunidad.
Because of the option of someone translating for Nate, he talked less in Spanish in the Satchula community.
En conclusión, me gusta el español porque es interesante y puedo hablar con más personas. Cuando hablo en español, siento inteligente.
In conclusion, Nate likes Spanish because it's interesting, and he can talk with more people. When he talks in Spanish, he feels smart.
Muchas gracias. Adiós.
I have never seen light as breathtaking as the stars in the Amazon rainforest. I have never heard so many different noises coming together to create one cohesive sound known as nature. In the future and stop worrying about what happened in the past. I have never seen water so clear that I could be convinced there wasn't water at all. I have never been able to feel as though I am the only one in the world and remain blissfully calm. I have never wanted to stay somewhere forever so badly. I have never felt as completely peaceful as I did during the Amazon night canoe. Being at peace with myself is something I often struggle to do, especially when I feel as though I should be with others. I am typically most happy when I am with people, to the point where being without my friends becomes difficult. Achieving balance between being by myself and being with others is a skill I developed heavily in Ecuador. I found myself being alone with my thoughts and nature and genuinely enjoying that time, even seeking it out. However, my newfound peace in being alone while my friends were off having fun didn't stop me from forming connections. I remember doing community service in Yandia, which is where we stayed with host families. While we worked hard tilling the ground, I was able to find a rhythm and hardly even noticed the blisters forming on my hands. Though spending time with my friends still sticks in my mind. Laughing, sharing stories, even making plans for when we got home. With a little bit of balance, 4 hours of tough physical labor turned into 5 minutes like magic. I feel much more in tune with myself and what I need after traveling through Ecuador. I now know that even if I feel like I should be with other people, sometimes it's best just to be alone, and vice versa. I've never felt so much inner peace and balance as I do now, because now I know I can be at peace anywhere. Thank you.
So, why do humans connect? How do relationships eclipse and expand the experience of existence? We desire an interwoven understanding, to make sense of the intimate moments that fragrant our memories, to know that the tempo of our time with the earth, ourselves, and others tethers to harmony and unity. We connect to place, hold dirt in our hands, and smell what it has to say. Sounds ignite our senses as our pulses vibrate in harmony with the wind. A true synchronization with location. In the rainforest, we gazed at velvet night skies so texturized we drank the darkness down like a tincture. 1 dose a day to massage the mind with presence and pieces of peace. We connect to others, knit our breath rhythmically together into a tapestry of vitality. We bathed in silence, shared stories, and felt the glory of the sincerity in a stranger's smile. We competed in limbo, played football with Alfonso, and named stray dogs Poncho. We adopted new mothers. Mama Lucy, a Cayman, taught us patience. Mama Hilda, an icon, taught us graciousness. As we sat in communion, we also wrestled with confusion. Nature and human extraction, the juxtaposition of oil victors and victims. We connected to self, learned to feel the flow and swim in it. We take our wounds on a date, create space for the tears, fears, and years that design our identity. Moments of deep intimidation and illumination. For 25 days, we starved ourselves of technology, journaled on sovereignty, and sat with ourselves at the confluence of curiosity and chaos. We connected, truly, to the earth, others, and ourselves. Now we wet our fingers and mold this act of kinship to all into the edges of that eternal existence. Thank you.
I'm Erin Davis, and I got to lead this group of 5 humans to Costa Rica this year. Okay. On our trip to Costa Rica, we did not jump from place to place, activity to activity. We stayed put. We remained in the same area, the community of San Luis, at the base of the cloud forest for over 2 weeks. And that, in the, I guess it's your upper left corner, is the community of San Luis, kind of in the distance. So as you can see, it's quite rural. There's no urban center. There's just homes scattered throughout that whole valley. For the majority of the trip, therefore, we were really able to settle in, and we were able to observe. For the first week, we were in a field station there building a trail that connected the very touristed cloud community of Monteverde to the coast. It was a community vision that this trail, the Sendero Pacifico, would not only provide a wildlife bio-corridor, but also an economic corridor that would allow some of the tourist economy from the cloud forest to trickle down through all the communities to the coast. And they too could reap the economic benefits of tourism. In turn, as tourists are attracted to the beauty of the biodiversity of the trail, the farmers and ranchers would be incentivized to reforest their cattle ranches, therefore doing their part to restore the essential biocorridor and also to abate climate change. It was a big vision. And after several days of working the trail, we hiked the trail. The second part of our trip, we were in homestays and we literally moved into San Luis. We were there for 7 nights, and during the days we worked with community members to revamp an old building, the community's first schoolhouse, into a much needed community space. This was a lot of hard work, and I must say that this group of students held the people in San Luis in awe with their positive attitude and how productive we were able to be. And finally, for the third segment of our trip, we bid San Luis goodbye and headed to the coast, where we enjoyed the ocean and examined the complicated problems that those working to protect endangered sea turtles in their nesting beaches are tackling in the face of both climate change and rapidly growing tourism. Our guide ended our trip by sharing a quote from Chief Seattle that really sums up the through lines of what we learned. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. As we feel overwhelmed by climate change and the struggle with complications of tourism, all of the inspiring and visionary people we met in Costa Rica seem to have grasped a concept of connection that perhaps we in the United States are missing. I know I certainly was. I viewed individual health, community, and climate as very important issues worthy of being addressed, but as separate issues. In Costa Rica, they are viewed as one and the same. You cannot unlock one from another. A solution for one is a solution for the others. They understand that healthy communities, or healthy individuals, are what make healthy communities, and healthy communities are what make for a healthy planet. We are all connected.
My name's Cody Arts, and my co-leader Aaron is fond of saying that the unofficial motto of the Steamboat Mountain School is, "You'll thank us later." In no other aspect of the SMS experience is this dictum truer than in the Global Studies program. We might well rename the GS program Type 2 Fun 101. For those that don't know, Type 2 Fun is the kind of fun that isn't actually fun. Certainly not in the moment. In fact, it usually feels like suffering. And it's only after the event and in reflection that you realize you actually had fun, and more importantly, that you were stronger as a result. Case in point, our trip. Ever since we got back from Costa Rica, all I've heard from students is how much fun the trip was, how much they learned. Well, here are some photos of students having fun and learning. This is Wyatt, and because of sunburn, heat stroke, bug bites, and an unfortunate piñata accident, it looks like his body is rejecting his face. This is Will Sorrentino. He's got his hand in a turtle hole. He's excavating sea turtle eggs to count how many unhatched eggs they are. And I think the next photo captures both the pride that comes from making a difference and also the smell of rotten sea turtle eggs. Next. Here's Aiden enjoying a tall glass of tamarind juice. Tamarind juice is an acquired taste that not many of our trip acquired. Oh, and this one's a special one. This is Andrick, and it was taken as he was being bitten by something and having a very impressive allergic reaction. If you look closely, you can see that he's breaking out in hives. Here is Jason, and Jason is learning an important lesson. That's listen to your group leaders and local guides when they tell you not to mess around with the hottest hot pepper in the world. And finally, we'll return to Wyatt. Here we are again at the end of the trip, and he looks like he's full to bursting with excitement. So it was a bit of a supper fest. However, those are not the stories that you'll hear tonight. Tonight you'll hear members of our group reflect on their experiences and talk about what they learned and how they grew and the people that they met that changed the way they see the world. Here's another folksy maxim to finish up. I used to have a coach who would say, "You can't teach hard." This one's not true. I think what he meant to say is that heart, that is resilience, courage, enthusiasm, is developed, not taught. And while you can't teach hard in the same way you can teach, say, the Pythagorean theorem or sentence diagramming, you can build programs that foster students' capacity to persevere, to adapt and react, to learn and grow through adversity. That's what the Mountain School has been doing since the inception of the Global Studies program in 1958. So with Gilbo's unofficial motto in mind, you'll thank us later, today, 64 years later, I want to say thank you to Lowell Whiteman and to Margie and to Michael Lackman. On behalf of the Costa Rica trip of 2022, thank you.
Hi, my name is Wyatt Graves, and this is our group at Sail Cargo, a project in the Gulf of Nicoya. The goal of Sail Cargo is to make the transport of cargo carbon neutral by using the power of the wind. Building a sailboat big enough to transport large amounts of cargo across the oceans is not quite the easiest of tasks. If anyone can do it, it's the team at Sail Cargo. The team building Sail Cargo is a tight-knit community of passionate and skilled tradesmen from all over the world who are there because they believe in the vision of Sail Cargo. Each community member was doing their part, from gardening to fabricating screws. Each person's job was crucial to the success of the project. Not only did the community work fluidly and efficiently, they were also extremely resourceful. This is a bandsaw that is powered by a disassembled motorcycle. The resourcefulness of this community is frankly astonishing. They used every scrap of wood they could and composted all their food waste to aid in growing a portion of the food that they were consuming daily. Sail Cargo was truly something beautiful. It became apparent to me that they were only able to build it because of their good team dynamic. Through the experience of Sail Cargo, I learned the importance of an efficient, productive, and close-knit team. I saw how teamwork made an impossible vision become reality. This made me think not only about my participation in my GS group, but also about the various other groups I'm part of, like my friend group, my ski team, and even my family. I thought about the ways that I affect these groups and how these groups can either benefit or be harmed by my attitude and actions. Specifically, the project in San Luis, where my specific work team was tasked with clearing a part of the rainforest, ripping up an old sidewalk, and pouring a new one, all within 5 days. Crazy, right? But we did it, and let me tell you, we did it well. We got it done because we worked as a passionate, efficient, and resourceful team. Going forward, I will look back to this experience as a model for my participation in future group settings. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason. During my global studies trip to Costa Rica, there were so many new things that I had never seen or heard before. Throwing your toilet paper in the trash, not letting your dog in the house, the most deadly energy drink, Jet Energy, yes, it's as deadly as it sounds, and howler monkeys. Although, one thing I had seen before was everywhere, machetes. Any native Costa Rican that we saw had a machete, and they used it for everything. That's not an exaggeration. From chopping wood so you can cook the pig you killed in your backyard, to cutting mangoes to eat on a 2-day hike in the most rural place you will ever visit, the people of Costa Rica use the machete for anything you can think of. One story that resonates with me is one night at my home state in San Luis when I helped my homestay brother cook pork. First, he grabbed his machete and started cutting huge logs. And then he used it to cut some smaller strips of wood for kindling for a fire. Finally, with his machete, he grabbed the piece of pork and started slicing it into thin strips, put some seasoning on the pork, and cooked it on the fire. Through this whole process, I realized something. People get very creative with how they use machetes. Costa Rican people can do anything. Unlike at home, they grow what they need, build what they need, and use every last drop of what they have. A machete is a tool they use to choose. A machete is a tool they choose because it can be used in so many ways. If you help a bunch of Costa Ricans fix a rundown building for a week so the community in San Luis can use it, you will notice that they can use any tool to the fullest. They can perfectly use any tool you hand them. This shows how Costa Rican people are very efficient and resourceful. It's not about what machete you use, it's about who uses it.
Hello, my name is Andrew Alvarez, and I will tell you about the biodiversity I found during my trip in Costa Rica. After a long, stressful 12-hour day, we arrived in a country 1/5 of the size of Colorado. I was expecting everything to look typical, like a beach or a jungle, but that's not what it turned out to be. The hike from the cool cloud forest to the coast highlighted the interesting biodiversity in this tiny country. I noticed how much of the biodiversity changed according to the different altitudes, like the clouds in the cloud forest. In the cloud forest, the visibility wasn't the best, but there was a nice breath of fresh air and a cool mist. Later, on the Sendero Pacifico hike throughout the cloud forest and went down to the coast, you could see a big difference from where we began. The trees became more tropical and bright, and the heat became more intense. The further we went down, the heat became a big challenge for me and the rest of the group. We found a river passing Veracruz and dumped our heads in it to cool down. After a long day of hiking, it felt great and relaxing. It taught me to enjoy the things given to you. We enjoyed the river for an hour, and after we continued to the coast. Throughout the coast, would all look very tropical and the same as Miami beaches, but I was fastly proven wrong. All the beaches looked completely different, one from another. One beach was called Nombre Jesus. There were parts with big rocks that looked like a small mountain. There was vegetation with trees on top too, but if you drove 10 minutes south along the same coast, you would get to a famous beach called Playa Grande. You could see mangroves everywhere, and the same color changed. It was crazy to think that a small drive can make a pretty big difference in the biodiversity of a place. For me, going to Costa Rica was way more than a vacation, but more as a learning experience. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nate. During the second week of our GS trip, we did homestays and worked in a neighborhood called Finca La Bella. We were revamping an old kindergarten into a community center called Marcelina Cruz. Our group was divided into 3 teams. Group 1 was responsible for the paint, Group 2 was responsible for building the foundation to a bathroom, and Group 3, my group, was tasked with making a wheelchair accessible and more refined sidewalk. Once the area was prepped to pour concrete, we started mixing the concrete and started moving wheelbarrows of concrete down the path. When we started pouring the concrete, this guy took it upon himself to pour the concrete into our wheelbarrows. His name was William Layton. William was the most joyful and energetic guy ever. Throughout the whole project, he would yell things to help the group move faster, saying things like, "The rain is coming," or "Move faster." Even super and funny weird things like "concrete for sale." All of these sayings were in hopes of keeping the group moving fast and while having as much fun as possible. He was the group's little hype man. One day I was talking to William while we were waiting for the concrete to finish mixing. He started telling me a little bit about his life. He mentioned that his wife had passed away 30 years ago. The importance of mentioning this was that he wanted me to learn the lesson from his experience. He told me how he sank into a depression and it was hard for him to enjoy certain parts of his life. He then made the point of saying that he pulled himself out of this hole he had created by doing things he enjoyed most. He started walking more, working on his coffee farm, and he told me that he worked in a bakery and loved baking food. William showed me what it meant to live and love life. William took the energy he found and used it to teach others the same lesson he taught himself. Living life to the fullest, just like this.
except being bored without any regret or disappointment. During the time we spent in Costa Rica, especially in the homestays, I saw that the people there were not afraid to be bored or alone. They just sit, drink coffee, do nothing, and watch the view for hours. My homestay mom usually stayed at home during the day, only doing chores and relaxing. She seemed happy and never actually bored. This surprised me because most people in America, and even in Czech Republic, including me, always had to be doing something to entertain themselves. I feel like people in America can be afraid of not being productive or active without being entertained. But people in Costa Rica aren't against doing things that might not seem very entertaining. It is good to take a break sometimes and not do anything and just observe whatever there is. Having no phones with us helped us to realize that even if we think we are bored and there's nothing to do, there's always something to do, like journaling, reading, or going for a hike. At the beginning of this trip, I found it really strange that most of the people we met, I sometimes saw just sit and look at the view for a long time. For some reason, I found that very unusual and uncomfortable. But later during the trip, I learned that it is very relaxing, especially while listening to the animals and sound of the nature around. The locals showed us the activities like playing soccer or other games they play in their free time. I don't think it ever included a phone or that we ever really needed a phone for any of the activities we were doing. I think most of us learn on this trip that getting bored can actually be harder than we think. There's always something else to do. And even if we do get bored, it's not a bad thing. I think all of us need to get bored a little and do absolutely nothing once in a while just to take a break.
Hi, my name is Eden, and throughout my time with the school in GS, I've learned there are specific moments that in a way make or break the trip. The memories that we don't forget aren't always the one on the itinerary, but rather the unexpected and little points in between. Moments that seem to slow down the world ever so slightly. One of these moments was on our last day of the hike from Veracruz to Guatemala. At the start of the specific day, many of us were not doing too well. On the outside, we had survived the night, and trust me, the eyes collecting in the bushes were massive and many. But we had little sleep, and the heat was getting progressively worse and worse. Marvin, our guide, had told us that it was mainly flat, but after about an hour or so, we had all realized that it was not flat. At the peak of knee pain and sweat, we arrived at this gorgeous creek. We all ran into the water, and it was almost as if you could see all the stress, hardships, and problems that any of us were dealing with then, floating away in the water. Pure contentment faded over me. The water was perfect, and we all sat there for about an hour, laughing and splashing around. I was a little sad to leave the magical place, but then the gorgeous mango tree on the side of the road made my day just as good. In a second, the guys were throwing lots of rocks and sticks at them to get the perfect fruits, just out of reach, down to the ground. We dug our nails into the skin of the mangoes and snacked on them for the rest of the adventure. That was easily one of the best mangoes I've ever had. Our faces plastered in juice and pulp, and our stinky bodies now covered in sticky mango juice. It was a true bonding experience for all of us. I find that during these pauses in life, we find the most important lessons that teach us skills we carry on for the rest of our lives. That day was one of those classic GS moments, and one of those things that at least I will never forget. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Will and I'm from Jersey. Walking into the woods on the first day of our trip, I felt an uneasy feeling in my stomach. I thought, what was I doing? I'm here in the middle of nowhere, Costa Rica, with people who don't share my language. Until Brandon, a 14-year-old boy, and I started singing Slim Shady while doing trail work. I breathed a sigh of relief. Although I was far from home, I found comfort in little things like these. I was also able to find little slices of home in Costa Rica while staying at the Guatemala Sustainability Center. I met another teenager, Stuart. There was an exercise bike in the corner of the room. This guy was talking about mountain biking, which spiraled into talking about New Jersey, in which we both grew up in. We told stories about places we had both grown up in, and I was finally comfortable in my new landscape. Towards the middle of the trip, we reached the homestay. We were warned that we were going to be highly uncomfortable, although that did not seem to be the case. As soon as I stepped foot in the door, I was graciously welcomed.
That night, we ate the popular dish, gallo pinto, or rice and beans, which I had become accustomed to. This type of meal was what I had come to expect throughout my time in Costa Rica. That second night, we ate spaghetti, which I was not expecting. Following that, pizza, pancakes, Oreos, and a little bit more rice and beans. Although this phrase might be cliche, we speak a different language, eat different food, live in different homes, but the power of human connection can say things words can't.
Hi, I'm Sam Thomas. This year, we spent a month traveling in Costa Rica. In order to get a fuller understanding of the country and the people, we focused most of our time in the Clyde Forest and Monteverde area of the country, which is about 3 hours north of San Jose. While we did have the opportunity to travel to other amazing places, like the Guanacaste region, to explore coastal mangroves, we started and ended the area around the town of San Luis. It turns out that my favorite part of our trip was during the service learning project in San Luis. During this service week, we worked construction, helping to build a new community center. I learned many new skills and had the chance to see how a project like that is planned and executed. I not only learned skills about construction, I learned things about myself. During the week, I dug a foundation for an addition to the building we were working on. The addition we added to the building was a new bathroom with a shower. After we dug the foundation, the brick needed to be laid. Laying brick is what I did for the second half of the project. During this phase, I learned various things. When I was digging a foundation, I learned to correctly shovel and how to correctly measure. I also learned the word for tape measure in Spanish, among other phrases and words. I was taught how to properly make, use, and deal with cement when laying brick. Another thing I was taught was how to use a trowel to lay brick. Part of the process of using a trowel was also being taught how to use a platter to carry loads of concrete. You have to make fewer trips back to the main concrete bucket and speed up the process. I also learned how to properly measure, lay, and cement into the foundation for a building. In my opinion, this was the most fun part of the trip. Through this work, I discovered something about myself. I learned that I sort of enjoy manual labor. I think the reason for this being is that I enjoy being able to see something come from the ground up. I also thought that this was the most fun part of the trip because I discovered I was actually able to learn and work with someone who spoke a different language than me. This is something that I think is very cool because I've been learning Spanish for a while and I discovered that I have worked hard enough in my studies to communicate, and I was able to see that I've actually learned something. In conclusion, being able to take this trip was an amazing chance to see a part of the world in a way I might not have had the chance to do on my own. I'm looking forward to put my new skills to work in the future. Thank you.
Hello, I am Sienna Lichtenfeld, and I want to tell you something that I discovered during my first GS trip to Costa Rica. To be honest, I went into this trip with a corrupted perspective and only saw things from a surface point of view. I didn't go into the new experiences trying to look deeper. That was until I was exposed to people who had a passion for educating others. I learned that everything is multi-layered and there is always more to see and learn. 1 week into the trip, we were sent onto an all-day hike throughout the Monteverde Cloud Forest in the heart of Costa Rica. During lunchtime, we sat down in the middle of the cloud forest and did an activity. We all found remote spots in the area and listened silently for 3 minutes. Although we were quiet, the forest was booming with hundreds of different sounds. From snakes to cicadas, there was never a quiet moment. After that time was up, we did the same thing again but plugged our ears just enough so that a little sound was blocked out. During the first round, all I heard were the sounds of nature, but during the second round, I heard more muffled sounds of different creatures that you usually don't hear over the sounds of loud other animals. It was insightful to hear these differences, where you think one way because of what you hear or see on the surface, but once you look deeper, you discover and learn more. A similar experience happened on the beach. We were picking up and studying microplastics. On the surface, the beach looked pristine, but as we looked for plastic a little bit under the surface, we found more litter than we could even count. People in Costa Rica work to clean these up, but every day plastics are still so prominent on this beach, from tourism and even distant places as far as the US and Japan. The same is true with people, like my homestay mom. At first I was nervous for the upcoming week because of our differences in language, but with the help of my homestay partner Natalia, I got to understand and know who she really was. I love the time I spent with her, and it is now an experience I won't ever forget. Looking back on the trip and these experiences, I can now see the importance of looking deeper and just a little farther underneath the surface. You can make assumptions and judge people from a surface point of view, but to find the true beauty and wonder of someone or something, you just have to look a little further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Axton Juno. On one of our final days, we went tide pooling. The tide pools were full of hundreds of hermit crabs, and I couldn't help but relate to them. I have a shell just like hermit crabs do. I foraged for it, and when I found one made out of fears about being vulnerable and authentic, I kept it. I related to the hermit crabs because they rely on their shells for protection against predators, the sun, and the ocean's crashing waves. My shell protects me against the prejudices of the world, keeps me safe from the crashing waves of society's expectations and me trying to break me down. Backing up a bit, heading into the trip, I was worried about not connecting with the group, especially the other guys on the trip. As a trans guy, I've had difficulty connecting and finding similarities between myself and cisgender guys. Our trip consisted of 3 main parts. Throughout each section, I felt a bit more connected with the group and comfortable being myself around the other guys. I felt like I connected the most with them when we arrived on the Pacific coast during the 3rd section of the trip. I felt like they saw me as one of them, despite me wearing a sports bra while we were swimming in the ocean. In the past, I've been treated differently because of this fact. Because they saw me for who I am, I allowed myself to take off my shell. I realized that after I got home, that I thought I needed the shell to protect myself from the world. And in some ways, I think I still do. But on this trip, I did not need to hold my shell out for protection. I learned that I won't have meaningful connections with people if I hold up my shell all the time. In the end, I connected with the group. My initial concerns about being distanced from the other guys on the trip were misconstrued. I learned that I'm not that much different from the cisgender guys than I initially thought. Finally, I'm looking forward to future trips with SMS and throughout my life where I can bring this newfound knowledge with me. Thank you for taking the time to come here.
Hello, my name is Natalia. How do you know when you really understand something? That you understand how worthwhile it is. During our time in Veracruz, where we spent the night during our hike, this was something I asked myself. Earlier, I had forgotten something by the river, and our guide Marvin offered to walk back with me to retrieve it. It was after dark, but I was up for the adventure. Right as we got to the river, we saw 2 ginormous spiders. They were the size of large river rocks, and were probably tarantulas. I saw centipede for the first time, and all these cool beetles with different patterns on them. When we reached a waterfall, Martin told me that everything that glinted with my headlamp were spiders, which meant that there were approximately 200 or more spiders. No joke. They were everywhere. It was so cool. We walked back to the river, and Martin asked me to turn my headlamp off. In the water, it looked like tiny little stars twinkling, like something out of a book, something imaginary. But they were glowworms, glowing at different hues so that they could communicate. I was completely transfixed. Reforestation had always sounded like a good idea, but it was only something theoretical. Now, it was personal. This place left me in awe. I realized that only through experience had I truly understood the magic of where we were staying. I was struck by how much love and kindness Rogelio and his brother had. The effort to reforest the biocorridor is a massive project, but Rogelio and his brother were always making a change to reforest their farm with what they had. And this was my takeaway from Costa Rica. Everyone contributed to sustainability with projects large and small. These projects showed initiative, creativity, and demonstrated a beautiful way to tackle such a large issue. I was left inspired and motivated to protect this beautiful forest and world that I too came to cherish. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Will King, and I'm going to talk to you all about our experience on the Sendero Pacifico. Here's a quote from famous humanitarian Albert Schweitzer. If you knew what I know about the power of giving, you would not let a single meal pass without sharing it in some way. How does a foreign group show up and fulfill a purpose, desire, or idea of a community instead of doing what they want so that they feel good? On the Sendero Pacifico, a through hike from the top of the cloud forest to the Pacific coast, We tried our best to do only what was asked of us, and not what we wished to do. The Sendero Pacifico was created to appeal to tourists and promote the San Luis Valley as a center of ecotourism. It has been designed and mapped precisely to pass through multiple small communities and villages throughout the San Luis Valley. As we pass through these towns, we pay for services they can provide, creating a perfect exchange. And now, 14 gringos from a high school in the middle of nowhere in Colorado come along hoping to do some meaningful service work. Soon after we arrived in this beautiful community, we almost immediately began service work on a half-kilometer section of the trail. We would later hike down the trail with pride, knowing that it would be used not just for the user's enjoyment, but also to service countless families. Throughout our 2-day adventure from mountains to below, we fulfilled the trail's purpose. And Virgilio, a humble and focused man we tirelessly worked with during our trail building, was beaming with an unforgettable smile after our work was done. A smile that could only bring me happiness and pride in my work, knowing at that moment I had fulfilled our purpose there in Costa Rica. While staying in 3 towns, I was surrounded by some of the most caring individuals in my whole life. The love and joy there in the San Luis Valley is something I'll never forget. As you go on in life, I hope and encourage you all to do service, help someone, and cause change, because the feelings that it's brought me is something I cannot describe, but only hope to share with others. Thank you.
As spangles or sparkles. Hi, I'm Gina Wither, otherwise known as G-Dubs Glitter, or Gina Pharmacia. This year, we were fortunate enough to take the most magical group of 11 senior girls to Spain. We were impressed by and grateful for their flexibility, openness, and capabilities as travelers. Our trip was a whirlwind of travel adventures, and we certainly saw as much of the country as possible during our stay. From the pristine, snow-capped mountains of the north to the salty, sandy beaches of the south, we traversed the country together with awe, appreciation, and quite a bit of Dramamine for all the windy bus rides. We explored the juxtaposition of Christian and Muslim architecture, the physical and emotional remnants of Franco's rule, the secrets of cooking Spanish tapas, the claustrophobia of a crowded metro train full of soccer fans, and the whimsy of a late-night jump in the ocean.
This trip afforded the students a closer look at the ins and outs of European travel. How to navigate the tangle of cobbled city streets on their own, how to embrace cold showers, how to conduct themselves in crowded urban hostels, and how to love one another and care for one another more deeply than before, despite exhaustion, itchy skin, and feeling uncomfortable in a new place. We are so proud of them and feel this trip was truly a gift. We hope their speeches give you a taste of what we experienced on our way, and thank you all for your support in this trip.
You guys, oh my God. I'm Ketchen Wynand. I'm trying to conceptualize where we are in life. We are graduating within the next couple days. We have spent 4 years struggling, studying, and living the lives we want to live. It isn't a life to live like you're on the run. That's why global studies is so important in our development. By immersing ourselves in another country, we can find new insecurities. School often says, try being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I personally don't like that quote. If you are truly comfortable with that, that would take away the entire purpose of being uncomfortable. You can't run from insecurity. You can't hide from being vulnerable. And most importantly, you can't run from yourself. 13 of us were pushed head over heels into a foreign country. We were forced to communicate and problem solve as we explored an unfamiliar place. We aren't kids anymore. Our childhood is over. GS teaches us how to focus on the present. It prepares us for the future. It shows us how to become our best adult individual selves. We are all incredible young women led by 2 outstanding leaders. GS matures us and forces us to realize that there is more to life than just ourselves. Without global studies, I wouldn't have been able to create such a tight connection with all of these women. Moments on the trip helped me understand that life isn't going to baby me. Like when we were cold and hungry, searching for food in the rain at night. Even being extremely tired and sick while we took a metro to a soccer game. Experiences like this will help me function in the real world. These moments were important because I figured out what person I become when I'm exhausted and frustrated. Having gone through this experience, I feel more prepared to handle life on my own. Yes, GS is over. We will never go on another school trip again. But I am so incredibly grateful to have gone on this trip with 13 outstanding, powerful women. I am close to every person on this trip, and it wouldn't have been the same without them. So thank you to the Steamboat Mountain School, thank you to my leaders, but most importantly, thank you to everyone that has helped me get to this point, my senior ladies. I love you all so much.
Hello everyone, I'm Maya Coe, a 3-year senior from Telluride, Colorado. To start, here's one of Spank's favorite quotes. Keep some room in your heart for the unimaginable. That quote spoke to the best parts of the trip. Our trip to Spain required immense planning. There were pre-trip plans that Michael, Gina, and Spangs all sleep over. Our parents made plans for us to attend this school and have an exceptional experience like Spain. We planned music, food, transportation, which bag to pack. Each day of the trip had a different plan. However, one of the nights, in Nerja, Ella, Presley, Ketcher, and I went to dinner and followed the path of spontaneity. We set out for dinner having plenty of time before our 10 p.m. curfew. After a long walk of following Ketcher on a wild goose chase for the dinner place, we settled on a great restaurant with a variety of food to satisfy each of our cravings. That night was like many other unplanned dinners, on our own in a new country. The dinner was full of speaking broken Spanish, eating at the wrong time, and entertaining waiters who found us to be the funny Americans. Don't worry, by the end of the trip, we were able to get on our own without the "We're American" banner plastered above us. As we headed back to the hostel around 9:45, we ran into Gina and Spangs. They exuberantly told us to come run into the ocean with them. In the back of my head, I remember Spangs saying the Mary Oliver quote, telling us to leave some room in our heart for the unimaginable. I thought to myself, wow, I'm about to run into the dark, cold, moonlit ocean with 2 of the best leaders and my best friends. Definitely a whimsical and spontaneous adventure. We quickly ran down to the beach, held hands, and sprinted to the ocean, a moment I'll never forget, and I'm so glad I left room in my heart for. The plans that Michael, Gina, and Spangs, and our parents and students were fundamental to the trip and took us to so many glorious places. The school really teaches us how to plan efficiently, but the experiences we gain from actually being on the trip teaches us how to embrace the unknown and keep room in our heart for the unimaginable. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tinsley. Take a moment and close your eyes. Now imagine yourself surrounded by your favorite elements of nature. Maybe this is the birds chirping, the snow swiftly blowing across your face, or water trickling on the rocks behind you. Now ask yourself, where is the beauty in this instant? Why are you drawn to this experience? For me, the draw of nature is the tranquility of these moments. The ability to move beyond the crowds of people, the rush of the city, or the commotion of a packed metro train. The opportunity to hear your own heart beating, and the chance to truly realize your presence and place in the world. For me, one moment that encapsulates this tranquility was our hike in the Sierra Nevadas. This is a snowy mountain range in the south of Spain where we spent 3 days hiking and taking in beautiful views. We stayed at a cool, damp refugio on the side of the tallest mountain in Spain during the trek. The second day, there were a couple of options for the hike. Just a few of us decided to do the longest loop, which ended up being about 12 miles. Although I was freezing, tired, and sore, I knew I couldn't pass up this unique opportunity. That day, we wandered across snowy fields, covered in sand blown in from the Sahara Desert, navigated across flowing streams, and explored the mountainside overlooking the coast of Africa. The steady wind and calming presence of the sun gave me a feeling of ease as we strode across the natural landscape. I'll always remember the calming presence of the sunshine, snow, and sky surrounding us, eternally grateful for the pocket of tranquil earth hidden in the sea of chaos.
Hey everyone, I'm Mira and I'm a 4-year senior. I went to Ecuador as a freshman
Texas as a junior, and Spain as a senior. Although I still love and talk about my past trips, Spain was unique to me because, as you may have noticed, this group is an all-girls group. The first all-girls trip in the history of SMS. As a freshman, my class was mostly girls, and I watched as boys left every year. I'm not quite sure what that says about us. At the beginning of my senior year, I ventured off to endure the challenge of climbing Long's Peak with all my girl classmates. On the drive back, I realized how supportive each girl was to me, and there was never a hint of unwanted competition. Then I found out that for GS, not only would my classmates be all girls, but so would my teachers. Spain's, strong, brave, empathetic, and caring. Gina, logical, intelligent, fun, and inclusive. There were many skills and qualities to be learned from each of them. As the trip went by, I realized there were also many characteristics to be learned from everyone. Maya, funny, Presley, optimistic, Ella Howland, kind, Tinsley, adventurous, Annika, supportive, Eliza, sweet, Ella Struck, resilient, Josie, humorous, with a tone of sarcasm, Catcher, energetic, and Eliana, artistic. I think that as women, it is important to build each other up as we have to face certain struggles throughout our lives. As there is a constant comparison between women and men, women usually feeling lesser than, it is hard not to feel criticized and judged. Going to Spain only showed us that we are all strong, capable women. I felt very empowered after Spain, knowing that I can navigate, travel smartly and safely, express feelings properly, learn to work with a group, and be adaptable to all situations. I look forward to seeing how each of us prove our strength to the world.
Okay. Hi, I'm Josie, and in Spain, we habla a lot of Espanol. Let me explain. We're always growing, always changing. But we grow gradually for the most part, often too slowly to notice. We can't see the change in a slightly altered face in the mirror or in the way we carry ourselves. But when we look back, the hills have grown to mountains, and who we were and who we are become clearly different. I remember our first dinner in Malaga, the first night in Spain, and Annika's birthday. We clunkily tried to order food from a waiter who made his best effort to understand the broken ramblings of Americans clearly not fluent in Spanish. After an intense back and forth of orders, confirmations, corrections to confirmations, and finally, more confirmations, we had our order sorted out. Food came, and so too did an onslaught of hungry mouths. We shared bites of tiny tacos, buns, and croquetas. Having what, at the time, was the best meal we had eaten yet in Spain. We also ended our trip back in Malaga. We went out to a paella restaurant for Maya's birthday as our last group meal of the trip. The ordering process this time was a fraction of the chaos. This time, we did not struggle to cough out the words or understand the menu, save for a, quote, gentleman-style seafood paella, which was just as confusing in English. But as the waiter circled, we were all able to order for ourselves. We had shed the broken ramblings and hand gestures and exchanged it for real spoken Spanish. Looking back, I realized how far we'd come. We went from a barely intelligible order to not being limited by our ability to speak. Our incremental growth, though not always noticeable at the time, became beautifully obvious looking back. While our improvement with Spanish is notable, our growth is not limited to such tangible examples. We may not even know how much each of us grew and changed over this month, but grow we did in evident and subtle ways, and possibly in ways only known to ourselves.
Hi, my name is Ella, and this is the journal entry from my time in Spain. I sit here on a bus racing through southern Spain, trying to figure out how to write a speech that could possibly encompass everything I want to share with you all. Spain, a country of endless mountains, eternal oceans, valleys layered with olive trees, beautiful flowers, and artifacts dating back centuries, friendly people, incredible food, and most of all, lessons learned that will last a lifetime. This magical trip not only wrapped up my high school years, but my childhood in Steamboat as well. Now, finishing up the last weeks of of my senior year and grasping at loose ends, I've had time to reflect on my experiences and how they've helped me prepare for what's ahead. Sun, water, and nature, the most vital aspects making up our Earth. These three concepts embody power, life, and serenity. In Spain, I was able to see all sides of these elements, and through that, found growth. The sun, brilliant and varied, whether it was the bright red sunburn threatening to peel away all of my skin, or the calming warmth of dawn on my face after a cold night's sleep at the refugio. The sun taught me that too much or too little of anything in life can be detrimental. Water, in my opinion, is the most diverse research tangible to us. Water can be a very calming substance, like the slow flowing streams on our hikes and the fountains that we passed in the cities. On the other hand, water can be powerful, like the one night after dinner we were swimming in the ocean and a huge wave crashed into Spangler, throwing her straight into the sand. Lastly, nature. Through various climates, each place we went had a unique natural touch. Even the cities were filled with floral decorations on every windowsill, and in the background, behind the buildings, you could see the mountains, valleys, or ocean. On this trip, through the sun, water, and nature, I was able to experience, absorb, and come alive with all the energy of Spain.
Hi, my name is Annika, and I'm a 4-year senior. When people say life's about the little things, I always brushed it off. It wasn't until after my 3 GS trips that I began to see its real meaning. Looking back, I realized the types of memories I thought of first. It wasn't the audio guides or history lessons. Instead, it was all the little moments. It was the memories like singing nursery rhymes in the car, making songs about Paca de Pollo with Gina Gina Pharmacia, or walking into the refugio 8,200 feet up a mountain and realizing you definitely did not bring enough clothes to keep you warm. These snapshots won't always be the best times, but they are what make the trip unforgettable. It's the interactions with friends, the struggles, the tears, and all the laughs. I've learned that core memories can happen whenever and wherever. It's okay to not find meaning behind everything, and to sometimes just let things be. To just live in the moment and let the memories make themselves. So next time someone says, life's about the little things, use it as a reminder. Be grateful for all those small snapshots and live for the little moments. And although it's impossible to capture it all, I made a video to represent how it feels looking back on these memories.
Okay. Hi, I'm Eliza. As humans, we desire connection. No matter where we go or what we find along the way, we make connections. Spain's vibrant culture connected with me, and through this trip, I developed lifelong friendships and memories, falling in love with Spain and those around me more each day. One of the deepest connections I felt in Spain was to the people around me. Our group bonded on a different level than during the rest of the school year. The last night we were in Spain, we shared things that we loved about each other. I reflected on the different characteristics that every person brought to the group and how important each of these people had been to me. We built trust with each other, shared endless memories, and were able to value each other's company before leaving. I also felt a connection to the culture. The different language, food, and history created a liveliness that was new to me. I was given a glimpse into the history of Spain, therefore allowing me to see the shared past that exists among the people who live there. Then, not simply through the culture built upon the land, but to the land itself, I connected to Spain. Our trek through Picos de Europa reminded me of the beauty in nature. We lived for 2 days above the clouds, surrounded by rigid peaks and clear blue lakes. A lot of the time, I get so caught up with responsibilities that I forget to go outside and appreciate the beauty of our earth. Being in this mountain range, I felt a sense of belonging. This brings me to my final point about connection, being, connection is not only an outward experience, but something internal as well. In Spain, surrounded by views, company, and culture, I was also able to connect with myself. I was happier, more filled with love and gratitude, and excited about the future. There are a few moments in life which you are given the opportunity to step away from day-to-day stresses and live in the moment, which is why I believe that global studies trips are so important. I know personally that the connections I built with my group, a new culture, nature, and most importantly myself, are things that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Plus, I finally figured out what Mr. Morse means by the human connection. Thank you. towards SMS for how it has prepared me to move to Italy for college next year through a thank you letter. Dear SMS, thank you for giving me a community of meaningful relationships. Along our adventures in Spain, we met amazing people, including guides, hosts, and locals. They taught me that it is possible to have a relationship with people, even if you do not speak the same language. I learned to confidently express myself through laughters, gestures, and whatever Spanish I could muster. This confidence in communicating is vital for me in building relationships in the future. My peer and teacher relationships were also deepened in profound ways through this experience. Thank you for making me push myself through uncomfortable situations. One of the adjustments to our lifestyle in Spain was constantly moving from one city to the next, usually every 2 days. While this allowed us to see many new places, so much movement is tough. Imagine us walking through narrow city streets, carrying a bag on the front, one on the back, and grocery bags for bread and jamon. From my past SMS experiences, like backpacking with limited water and a 19-hour ascent of Long's Peak, I felt prepared for anything as we departed for Spain. And I know that I can persist with a joyful spirit through discomfort in the future. Thank you for showing me the beauty of the world in so many forms. From hiking alongside a riverbank in the Sierra Nevadas to paddleboarding in Nerja, my newfound connection to nature has grown a certain empathy and gratitude within me, and I've embraced a new passion for cultures and travel. I believe the variety of beauty I have seen during my trips with SMS is so special. From our campus to Yosemite, all the way to Madrid, my breath has been taken away. Thank you for allowing me to feel at ease because I was a part of this program. I truly believe it has prepared me to be a thriving and capable adult. From learning how to budget, to navigating a metro system, to forming enduring relationships, I am so excited to start my new adventure in Italy. And I know I will always have a community here to support me. Thank you, SMS. Sincerely, Ella.
Hi everyone, I'm Presley. One memory always comes to mind from our trip to Spain when our group had just arrived in Cordoba. That night we were given money, a curfew of 9 p.m., and our own 3 brains to explore and find dinner. Instantly we knew what we wanted. Pasta, of course. We set out as the brain quickly soaked us. Finally we made it to the first Italian place and stared in horror at the closed sign. Without phones to search for a new place, we walked into a pharmacy and did our best to ask about a pasta place with our meager Spanish skills. Well, you should just look it up, the woman in the pharmacy replied. Awkwardly, we told her we were a group of teenagers without phones. Something unheard of. It was at that moment that an old man who had been sitting in line offered to walk us to a different place. Ignoring what Emily and Gina said about stranger danger, we decided he was just a nice old man. Winding through the streets, we thanked him profusely when we reached the restaurant. Sadly, it was also closed. Turns out, restaurants in Spain don't open until 9. With time running out, we sprinted down the streets in search of anything open at this early hour. As if the world had heard our cries, we randomly found an Italian place that seemed to be open and bustling with locals. Turns out it was all a facade, and everyone was just enjoying tapas. We walked in, breathless and dripping wet. And as we stepped forward, Maya and Ella suddenly refused to speak, and I was left alone to use my 4 years of what should be perfect Spanish. As soon as they asked when we could eat, the whole restaurant burst out laughing at us. The host looked at us with amused eyes as he asked what exactly we wanted to eat. As quietly as I could, I asked for pasta. He led us to a deserted dining area, and we sat at a table, alone, in shame. The discomfort was worth it in the end, because the pasta turned out to be incredible. We made it back for curfew, and realized how that experience could have gone differently had we let our embarrassment get the best of us. Instead, that dinner became one of my favorite nights on the trip, despite fumbling around like tourists, and the 3 days it took for our clothes to dry. That night was filled with laughter, and another memory was added to the ever-growing pile we accumulated in Spain. Thank you for listening.
All right, for our final senior presentation of the ceremony, I'd like to introduce Eliana Brown, who will close out our evening with her poem titled What We Bring Back.
this final speech of the night. I hope you enjoy this poem. What we bring back. Souvenirs, trinkets, tchotchkes, gifts. To give your family, your friends, your teacher, yourself. Artwork, jewelry, a shirt, a book. To say, here look, I left, but still, I thought of you. Seashells plucked from lapping waves, the other side of a familiar ocean. A turtle shell found on the bank of a river, the border between two separate worlds. A few pressed leaves, gorgeous ones, fallen from famously oft-pictured trees. Mementos taken to remind you of stories, of unbelievable places, adventures. You think, take a piece of it home with you to remember. Photographs will show memories that you loved so, a day at the beach. Snapshots of time stalled, don't blink or you'll miss it all, a stunning sunset. Get the camera now, pose for how the space allows, 3 smiling friends hug. Now is it enough? Smile please, don't groan or huff, an ancient palace. Does it really count? Does it show the full amount? Gardens of flowers, but we only have an hour. The memories you bring back are intangible dreams that you can describe, but others can only just gleam. Untranslatable, they exist just for you, in your heart always, but what can you do? To share such an experience, fleeting and precious, that lives just in our minds, that existed just for us. Your parents, your friends, ask for stories and pictures, but from what little you share, the reality was richer. And that is a sensation you cannot describe, cannot relate to an audience, can only circumscribe. But within you lives this adventure always, that will no doubt help shape you for the rest of your days. I can stand up here upon this stage to quote memories of tears and rage against a windstorm and make you laugh, but what you know of my experience isn't even half. I can use this language, this precious gift, to describe to you the jarring rift of being in a foreign place, surrounded by foreign art. But no matter how much I relate, you only get a part. We can sing our stories of rainy nights, searching for food and shelter, huddled tight, and up here now we share a good laugh, trying to express this for your behalf. We'll share the sights, the rare found beauties, of our mountain treks, adventures through cities, and describe to you pictures, but a picture cannot express the awe the scenery struck in each heart. Telling tales of spontaneity after the fact is a great memory for us, but I suppose it falls flat. Without the adrenaline, can you understand the ethereal feeling of our feet in damp sand? Many of us preach the importance of the small things, of basking in the moment, appreciating everything. The sun, the water, the nature, the space. On each of these stories, these elements leave a trace. Our minds were our tools, and a positive mindset was crucial to all of this, our final safety net. For all of these stories, when things went awry, adaptability, resilience was all we could go by. Coming out of this trip, we all had matured. These precious experiences had us assured that we were all changed for the better. That is true. We all grew up and are now ready for something new. We came here to express our utmost thanks, for we bonded as humans, we strengthened our ranks. A supportive group of girls, we overcame loads to be ready for our futures, taking such different roads. Then all too soon we had to go. We knew if we stayed, we could not grow. So we traveled to the end of the map, and together we were sad to call it a wrap. But it's never really over, because what we bring back is that sacred experience that we instead would have lacked. Thank you.
For those of you that remember when we met together for the first time back in October during Family Weekend, I spoke about the collaboration and the teamwork that's needed to make these incredible trips happen. It's definitely not easy. Tonight, we were able to hear from and to honor some of the critical members of this team, our students and our trip leaders, and I could not be more proud of them. Before we finish the evening and head out in the hallway to enjoy each other's company and enjoy some light refreshments, I want to thank another member of this team without whom none of this would be possible. Thank you to everyone here, to family members, to peers, friends, for supporting our students on this journey, and most importantly, for welcoming them home. I also want to send a final thank you to Trini Young, who's run all of the slideshow and helped us out this evening, as well as support staff and any parent volunteers that have come this evening to help as well. So thank you all. So that's it for this evening. I'll invite you all outside.
One more thank you to Michael Lackey.
I'll invite everyone outside into the hallway to enjoy some food.